Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Friday, January 29th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered in my over 46 years of living life and doing therapy. And these tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages, it says Start Here. It will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And the 24th chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work, and that tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And that's a tool I've been using for more than 16 years now to manage my emotions, to turn my emotions into a very useful guidance system. So whenever I have a negative emotion, I can pick up that tool and map out what my mind is doing to create that emotion and what my mind is trying to insist needs to happen in order for me to feel better, and wake up to the fact that that has never led to an improvement in my life situation. So when I willingly give up what my mind is telling me needs to happen, and I quit trying to force life to fit my idea of what life should be, I get answers, I get insights, intuition, I get all kinds of benefits that I didn't know were available. And that tool's available off that web page. You can click on the link, download the PDF, print it off, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also listen to a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process. So it's a series of tutorials, actually, audio files that are tutorials for how to use this tool. Some of those audio files contain questions about how the process works, and they contain testimonials from people who've actively applied this tool in their lives to great benefit. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words, HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you will see the glowing heart icon. And if you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we encourage people to do that soon and often because that gives them the potential to experience these positive benefits in their life. It might also help them generate questions or comments or testimonials, and we encourage people to do that and then give us a call. Our number is 563-999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, it'll put a little question mark by your phone number, and I can announce you by your area code, and we can have a conversation. And you will help us live into our intention with this work, which is to be of service. In this year, we have agreed to do the Course in Miracles lessons, and we are on the 29th day of the year, and so the lesson for today is God is in everything I see. The commentary behind that lesson is, the idea for today explains why you can see all purpose in everything. It explains why nothing is separate, nothing is by itself, or in itself. And it explains why nothing you see means anything. In fact, it explains every idea we have used thus far, and it explains all subsequent ideas as well. Today's idea is the whole basis for true vision, as opposed to seeing, which is image creation, the process of perception in our minds. This spiritual idea of true perception, or as A Course in Miracles calls it, vision. This is the whole basis for vision. You will probably find this idea very difficult to grasp at this point. You may find it silly, irreverent, senseless, funny, and even objectionable. Certainly, God is not in a table, for example, the way you see it. Yet, we emphasized yesterday that a table shares the purpose of the universe. And what shares the purpose of the universe shares the purpose of its creator. Try then today to begin to learn how to look at all things with love, appreciation, and open-mindedness. You do not see them now. Would you know what is in them? Nothing is as it appears to you. Its holy purpose stands beyond your little range. When vision has shown you the holiness that lights up the world, you will understand today's idea perfectly. And you will not understand how you ever found it difficult. Our 6 2-minute practice periods for today should follow a now familiar pattern. Begin with repeating the idea, God is in everything I see. Repeat that to yourself and then apply it to randomly chosen subjects about you. Name each one specifically. Try to avoid the tendency towards self-directed selection, which may be particularly tempting in connection with today's idea because of its wholly alien nature. Remember that any order you impose is equally alien to reality. Your list of subjects should therefore be as free of self-selection as possible. For example, a suitable list might include, God is in this coat hanger. God is in this magazine. God is in this finger. God is in this lamp. God is in that body. God is in that door. God is in that wastebasket. God is in that banana peel. In addition to the assigned periods of practice, repeat the idea for today at least once an hour, looking slowly about you as you say the words unhurriedly to yourself. At least once or twice, you should experience a sense of restfulness as you do this. God is in everything I see. God is in this coffee cup. God is in this phone. God is in this keyboard. God is in this carpet. So, that's the first lesson for today. We have also been adding the comments from Pam Grout and her book, A Course in Miracles Experiment. And so, her lesson 29 in that book is titled, Question Authority. She quotes here the great philosophers Calvin and Hobbes. It's not denial. I'm just selective about the reality I accept. Calvin and Hobbes. Pam writes, the first thing I learned in journalism school is question your source. Is the source reliable? Is the source knowledgeable? Are the facts being presented scientifically provable? This standard journalistic practice is especially useful when deciding which of the voices in the chorus of voices in your head for you to listen to. In lesson 29, I learn love is in everything I see. But if it's absolute fact that love is in everything, Why do I see pain and dysfunction? Why am I afraid? When thoughts like this arise, it's time to question your source. Who is this voice that screams, "Get me out of here, make this stop"? In my case, it's always my own made-up story. A petty, whiny voice that pouts, crosses its arms, and says, "Off with her head." The Course calls it my ego. I've nicknamed it the chatty asshat. Sometimes, 6 times a day for 2 minutes, I will consciously choose to see nothing but love in everything. If the chatty asshat starts yammering, as it is wont to do, I will question the source and realize that if what it's telling me frightens me or causes me to doubt my worth, it's just, as Faulkner calls it, my little postage stamp of reality. So, as Pam's writing her book, in the beginning she said she will change up the word God, and she'll call it the dude and love and all these other things. So today she's substituting the word love for what the Course says uses the word God. Love is in everything I see. God is in everything I see. And when any part of my mind wants to tell me that's not true, it's that part of my mind that's busy creating its own perception as separate and often destructive to the actuality of life. For those that want to work over the weekend, we have lessons for Saturday and Sunday. Tomorrow's lesson is, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. The commentary reads, the idea for today is a springboard for vision. From this idea will the world open up before you, and you will look upon it and see in it what you have never seen before. Nor will what you saw before be even faintly visible to you. I flashed on, this is a sidebar, this is not from the Course in Miracles. I flashed on, there were a number of optical illusions that were presented to me in my early psychological training. And now with the internet, they're very common. They're all over the place. But it used to be that they were relegated to introductory psychology books. And sometimes the game magazines that were popular before the internet. And I remember how frequently I would look at a picture and I would only be able to see it as one option. And then someone would say, you read further down the chapter of the intro psych book, and it would say, look at it, do you see the old lady? And all I was seeing in the picture was a young lady. And then after they said, see the old lady, look, she's facing this way, then after I saw that, all I could see was the old lady. I would have a hard time getting my mind to show me how that set of line drawings looked like a young lady. So that's what this is leading us to. This lesson is telling me that once I have true vision, once I see accurately, I won't be able to even remember how I saw it the other way. Today we're trying to use a new kind of projection. We're not attempting to get rid of what we do not like by seeing it outside. Instead, we're trying to see the world. We're trying to see in the world what is in our minds, and what we want to recognize is there. Thus, we are trying to join with what we see rather than keeping it apart from us. That is the fundamental difference between vision and the way you currently see. Today's idea should be applied as often as possible throughout the day. Whenever you have a moment or so, repeat it slowly to yourself, look about you, and try to realize that the idea applies to everything you do see now, or could see now if it were within the range of your true sight. Real vision is not limited to concepts such as near and far. To help you begin to get used to this idea, try to think of things beyond your present range, as well as those you can actually see with your current sight, as you apply today's idea. Real vision is not only unlimited by space and distance, but it does not depend on the body's eyes at all. The mind is its source. To aid in helping you to become more accustomed to this idea as well, devote several practice periods to applying today's idea with your eyes closed, using whatever subjects come to mind, and looking within rather than looking without. Today's idea applies equally to both. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Lesson 30. Pam Grout writes, "The divine buzz and me, a love story." So here's this, another phrase she's using for God or the creation or love, the divine buzz. And she quotes Ann Patchett as saying, "A feeling of peace and well-being spread through her veins." Pam writes, "While I was brunching with my friend Judy, she asked if I was up for an experiment. She has been using psychologist Arthur Aaron's 36 questions. It's a device, according to an essay in the New York Times Modern Love column, for accelerating intimacy. I think I surprised us both with my answer to question number 4. The question would be, what would constitute a perfect day for you? Typical answers include things like being at the beach, sipping drinks with umbrellas, getting a massage. I said, and I was as surprised as Judy to hear myself say this, that my perfect day had nothing to do with activities or events. It has to do with my headspace, with feeling the divine buzz that at times almost overwhelms me. I'm not even sure how to describe it. A sense of joy, a sense of life's fierce beauty. It's almost as if I could spontaneously combust with sheer rapture. When those days, well, more like minutes of some days, happen, it matters not what I'm doing. Believe me, I've had many of the, quote, perfect, close quote, days promoted by the marketing machine. Exotic vacations, 5-star hotels, mountaintop lodges, but nothing compares to being on the frequency of the divine buzz. The perks we think we want are cool. I'm often astonished by the things I'm invited to do as a travel writer. But those things don't guarantee happiness or even those, quote, perfect, close quote, days. I managed to be miserable on a jungle safari in Brazil. My head wanted to be back home. My thoughts were judgy, insecure, lost. The only requirement for a perfect day is having a happy mind. A Course in Miracles Lesson 30 says it like this. Love is in everything I see because love is in my mind. When I join with what I see, rather than hold it apart, I lock in that divine buzz. I will be grateful for this connection every chance I get and will therefore have a perfect day. That's the lesson for tomorrow. The lesson for Sunday reads as follows. I am not a victim of the world I see. The commentary reads, today's idea is the introduction to your declaration of release. Again, the idea should be applied to both the world you see without and the world you see within. In applying the idea, we will use a form of practice which will be used more and more with the changes as indicated. Generally speaking, the form includes two aspects, one in which you apply the idea on a more sustained basis, and the other consisting of frequent applications of the idea throughout the day. 2 longer periods of practice with the idea for today are needed, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. 3 to 5 minutes for each of these are recommended. During that time, look about you slowly while repeating the idea for 2 or 3 times. Then close your eyes and apply the same idea to your inner world. You will escape from both together, for the inner is the cause of the outer. As you survey your inner world, merely let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Be as neutral as you can. Do not dwell on any one in particular, but try to let them stream and move through evenly and calmly without any special interest on your part. As you sit quietly and watch your thoughts, repeat today's idea to yourself as often as you care to, with calm, with no sense of hurry. In addition, repeat the idea for today as often as possible during the day. The idea again is, I am not a victim of the world I see. Remind yourself that you are making a declaration of independence in the name of your own freedom. And in your freedom lies the freedom of the world. The idea for today is also particularly useful to use as a response to any form of temptation that may arise. It is a declaration that you will not yield to it and put yourself in bondage. I am not a victim of the world I see. Lesson 31. Pam Grout's chapter 31, titled, There's a Party Going On Right Here. She quotes Marianne Williamson, who says, a miracle is the answer to any problem. Pam writes, A Course in Miracles have lots of pages, lots of words, but it boils down to this. Once we relinquish our old thought system, love becomes our MO, our method of operating, and miracles and blessings are all we see. As we let go of the creaky, has-been thought system that's currently playing out on our planet, we move. And we move from fear to love. We move from problem state to possibility state. We move from limitations to absolutely anything can happen. And it starts with getting lesson 31, I am not the victim of the world I see. And getting that, letting it in, letting it find a place to land within you. I am not the victim of the world I see. For 5 minutes, 2 or 3 times today, I'm asked to remember that the world out there is a result of the world in here. I hope you see me pointing at my head. Once I let go of my belief, my own thought system, that whatever problem seems to be plaguing me is absolute truth, a bigger picture, also known as a miracle, starts to emerge. Once I let go of my belief, once I cancel my need to be right, once I cancel every goal I have for the current situation, a bigger picture, also known as a miracle, starts to emerge. I am not the victim of the world I see. So we have 34 minutes left, and it's a Friday, so we took a little bit longer than usual to do our intro and read 3 lessons so people can work on Course in Miracles over the weekend. And our call-in number remains 563-999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. You can let us know what's working for you or not working for you in today's lessons or in the Course in Miracles lessons in general. And you can help us be of service by guiding the conversation in a particular direction. We were doing a support group last night on Thursday, and we had somebody step through a worksheet process, and I am grateful, as always, for everyone who's joining us in those support groups. And it is a Friday, so I can mention that our next one is on Tuesday, and the information about joining us in support groups is available at mindshiftersacademy.org website. And you're welcome to join us, and you're welcome to share that information with anybody that you think might benefit from it. So we're also taking suggestions for people that you think it might be beneficial to interview, whether they are people who are spiritual teachers, whether they are people who have written a book that's really touched you or positively impacted your life. And we welcome those suggestions, and we welcome books, and we welcome emails at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, either with suggestions for show titles or suggestions about books and authors to interview. And we appreciate everybody who's made recommendations and who's suggested books. And I had a thought the other day that we should revisit Corinne Zupko and see how she's doing. She was an author that we interviewed, and her book, From Anxiety to Fear, is a book that describes how she has used the Course in Miracles tools and lessons to help herself, heal herself, change her life dramatically for the better after having been diagnosed with multiple anxiety disorders. And it would probably be quite interesting to see how she's doing with all of the isolation, the coronavirus, and the stresses in the world today. I'm about to do a second interview with someone that I interviewed earlier in last year, and after I did the interview with her, she published her first book. And her book is titled Nothing Much Happens: Cozy and Calming Stories to Soothe Your Mind and Help You Sleep, by Catherine Nicolai. And she has a podcast by that same name, Nothing Much Happens. And she is a person who has her own yoga studio, and she has a yoga studio that helps people with all kinds of issues. And she even has 2 therapists on staff who are aligned with her yoga practice and the mind, body, energy, and mindfulness. And so if you know somebody who's written a book like that, whether it's on integrative mindfulness techniques or yoga, or integrating yoga with psychological practices, give us a call, 563-999-3581, and press 1, or send me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, and let us know. Give us your suggestions, book titles, authors, topics you'd like to have us explore. I did an interview yesterday with a gentleman who is a psychiatrist who does a functional medicine approach. And he has a very active practice trying to help people who've been given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different psychotropic medications, and they're still not happy in life. They're still not functioning well. And he works with them to analyze what's happening in their body's energy system, not just the gut biome, not just the brain chemistry, not just the hormones, not just the neurotransmitters in the system, all of it in a balanced approach. And then with one of the things he's learned is that if you do an analysis and find that someone's got a severe vitamin or mineral deficiency, or someone's got a cascading effect causing inflammation either in the brain or the body, that the result of the inflammation or the deficit in nutrients for optimal functioning is what's causing the psychological, the psychiatric symptoms. So if you just keep treating the symptoms and you just keep putting medications to slow down or numb out or distract from the symptoms, and you never resolve the underlying cause, people stay sick and people stay stuck on these medications. If, on the other hand, you do an analysis, a full systemic functional approach analysis, and find the cause and correct it, many of these people who've been given diagnoses like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder, etc., find that's not what was going on. The symptoms they fade away or are tremendously diminished, and there's no need for the psychotropic medications which have all of the ongoing negative effects and were never intended for long-term use anyway. And so people get healthier, they reclaim their lives, and they move on. And they feel restored, and they feel grateful for having found somebody who will look at them as a whole person and approach their situation from a systems approach rather than just, here's a symptom, let's assume that if we just numb it out or distract from it or suppress it in some way, that the system will be fine. Whereas when we understand systems work, integrative medicine, functional medicine, holistic medicine, traditional Eastern medicine, we understand the system creates what we call symptoms or problems as alarm systems. They're there to point us in the direction of a problem. They are not there to punish us. They are not there so that we squash them. I interviewed a psychiatrist, an integrative psychiatrist, and she was a psychiatrist in a traditional medical model for a lot of years, and she started having abdominal pain. And as a medical doctor herself, she went to her colleagues, the best she could find, and they were completely unable to find out what was causing the pain in her abdomen. And the thing that made her break with that medical model was when they finally recommended, let us just go in and cut the nerve in your abdomen to that part of your abdomen so you don't feel the pain. And she realized the insanity of that approach, and that turned her into the search for healthy, whole, integrative, functional medicine options. And as she discovered what was necessary to get at the root cause and change the root cause of her abdominal pain, she realized now she had to do that for her patients. She could no longer just prescribe the standard psychotropic medications to numb out or dumb down the symptoms. And so I believe her name is Dr. Phyllis Hefner, and the interview with her is available on yourmind.org. It's journeysdream.org/podcast. It's the On Your Mind podcast hosted by Journeys Dream. And yet another psychiatrist, just like Dr. Mark Hyman, who was a medical doctor and turned to his profession for help and got bupkis. They got nothing. They got, here, take these meds and go home and get ready to die young. So if you know somebody who has been labeled treatment resistant, if you know somebody who is tired of just taking the same medications day in and day out, especially medications that were never intended for long-term use, and all of them are, well, all of them. Everyone I've encountered, every psychotropic medication I've ever encountered was designed for short-term use. And they have their uses. And even Dr. Radin yesterday was saying he uses medications. He uses them very judiciously, and he uses them as he's trying to stabilize the patient to find out the underlying cause and correct it. So medications are useful. They have their place. And almost all of them have long-term negative effects. And if you're one of those people who's not feeling at the top of your game, or you know somebody who's taking psychotropic medications, and by psychotropic medications I mean medications for anxiety or depression or schizophrenia or mood swings or what a lot of people call bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety and panic attacks, any of the range of medications that are used for any and all diagnoses in psychiatry. If people are taking those medications and they're not feeling great and functioning at a high level and eventually able to get off of them or taper way down because they're doing other healthy things, if you're interested in finding out, are there options, look for a psychiatrist who is integrative or a psychiatrist who is functionally medicine trained, or go to the website A4M. The A4M.com is a American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, and they train physicians in a holistic functional medicine approach. And so if you go to that website and start exploring, you can find people who are, there's a link for finding a provider, and you can enter your location area and find out if there are people who've been trained through the A4M Institute or MMI, so that they have that holistic functional medicine integrative training. So we have 20 minutes left, or almost 20 minutes left. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And I feel like I've been rambling a bit here, so let us know how we're doing. Let us know what your comments or questions are. Let us know what a topic is. The American Academy of Anti-Aging. I'm answering someone in the chat room. The website is simply A4M as in Mary.com, A4M.com. And they train physicians. They provide a whole bunch of educational material and courses to train physicians into a functional medicine approach. So if you know somebody who's been associated or trained there, you've got somebody who's not just going to throw meds at you trying to suppress symptoms. You'll have somebody who is willing to look at you as a whole person, and someone who's willing to look at you as a system of systems, interconnected networks, from neurology to musculature to hormones to the internal gut biome to the nervous system to your mental emotional processing, They will look at you in diet and nutrition and movement. And help you come up with ways to identify the actual underlying cause that's giving rise to the symptoms that you don't like, that are making it difficult for you to have a healthy, happy life. And there are people who are doing this work, and they're using acupuncture, and they're using Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, herbs, and they're using Qigong in cooperation with all of that. I have an interview scheduled with one of those specialists in the next 2 weeks. There are people who recommend things like Morita therapy by David Reynolds. And there's so many ways for people to improve their world, their life status, their health functioning, their mental and emotional health that go beyond simply taking medications. And that is one of the primary purposes for the On Your Mind podcast, is to raise awareness to the Journey's Dream not-for-profit is committed to trying to help to rewrite the narrative on mental health in America and hopefully worldwide, and rewrite that narrative to one in which optimal health and well-being is possible and expected, and where mental health challenges become transformational rather than tragic. So again, that's journeystream.org/podcast, and there are, I believe, 43 podcasts that have been published in this past year, and more coming. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Call that number and press 1 and let us know how you would like to spend the last 16 minutes of our first hour. 563-999. Area code 205, you're in the air. Who do we have?
This is Joan. Can you hear me?
Say that again, Joan. I'm turning my volume up here. Go ahead. Say it again.
I just said, this is Joan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're a little soft, but go ahead. How can we support you today?
Well, I'm wondering if these doctors that you're talking about, if they're generally covered by insurance.
Well, a lot of them, you know, I generally ask that question, and so the answer I got from Dr. Donald Radin yesterday was he's covered as an out-of-network provider, so he doesn't belong in these networks and take all of their reduced fees, but insurance covers a lot of what he does because he's a medical doctor.
Right.
And so you know, it won't be like if somebody has an HMO, they won't have any coverage for somebody like him because HMOs don't provide coverage for out-of-network providers. But if you have a standard indemnity plan or if you have a PPO, you probably have out-of-network benefits. So you'll pay a little bit more, but it's still covered by insurance.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I am totally convinced that my mother died of too much medication. You know, she just took so much medicine. And, you know, one medicine would have side effects that she would have to have other medications to treat the side effects. And it was I mean, I can't help but think all of those medications would make me sick too.
Well, and if you do the research on it, there's a thing called iatrogenic, and anything that's iatrogenic means it's physician-caused. And if you look at the research on a regular basis, iatrogenic death, so deaths that are caused by physicians doing whatever they do, is anywhere from in the top 3 to in the top 5 causes of death every year.
Wow. Iatrogenic.
And I did an interview with Dr. Brian Ardis, and that's available at the journeystream.org/podcast list. And if you scroll through those, you'll see, the Dr. Brian Ardis. A big part of the interview is how he's come up with some solutions for acne, because acne is such a huge issue with people getting depressed and becoming suicidal, especially in the teen years. But also in that interview, he talks about the very thing you're talking about. He talks about people that he's known who have been misdiagnosed and loaded up with medications and not survived it and had a rough time because of it. And so if you're interested, you can go to journeystream.org and search for apparently it's the 29th episode. You can just type in the word ARDIS, that's his last name, and the title of that interview is The Ardis Acne System, Harnessing the Healing Power of Nature with Dr. Brian Ardis. And I'm put to mind of that because of your story. In that interview, he tells a story of someone, I think it might have been an in-law of his, that he was actively arguing for, and he got basically forcibly removed from the hospital because he was trying to tell them that what they were doing was based on a misdiagnosis and causing more problems than it was helping, and the person involved lost their life. So
Right.
it isn't, unfortunately, it's not rare that the treatments some of our physicians give us, and the physicians they're doing their best. I mean, their intention is to help. However, if they're trained in a system that doesn't teach them the systemic method and the holistic method and the functional method, they don't have any tools. They don't have any options.
Right.
So this is where so many people will tell you it is so important to be your own advocate or find someone who can advocate for you with health care. And it's more important now than ever, especially as our doctors and nurses are so overwhelmed, and the money that is spent to pay them their salaries is far less than what goes to the big corporations that derive profits from the healthcare system. So it's up to each of us to become an advocate for ourselves and our loved ones.
Well, on her birth certificate, they put cause of death as Alzheimer's. And she was never diagnosed with Alzheimer's and had a very clear mind until the last several weeks when she was so drugged up that anybody would, be out of their mind. But, I didn't even notice that until weeks later.
You didn't notice what until weeks later?
I didn't notice that they had put cause of death as Alzheimer's. And she did not have Alzheimer's. And
well,
we called her.
So do what you can to protect yourself and advocate for yourself and your loved ones. Is there something else you wanted to share?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Well, you're entirely welcome and deserving. Thank you for the call. Susan, I believe we have a few minutes left, and you raised your hand. How can we support you today?
Yeah, I was wondering if there's another way of wording, I am not a victim. What's the exact, I'm not a victim of the world I see. Is that the lesson? I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, I am not the victim of the world I see.
Now that seems very useful just as it is, but I was thinking of Michael and how he turns it around to something positive. And I've been messing around in my mind with how that might be. But in this case,
regulatory speech in this way would be, I create the world I see.
Yeah, that's, for me, boy, oh boy, that just doesn't quite do it the way the original wording does. In this case, I would keep the original wording.
Right. Do that. Do what works. And maybe if you have that part of your brain that's nudging you, maybe keep working with it and massaging the potential for what Michael would call a better regulatory speech approach, a more positively stated position.
Well, something like everything that happens is for my good or benefit, or I am entirely safe. I mean, it balloons right out into all sorts of other lessons that we've had.
Well, Michael has a tool called the Mind Shifter. It has a list of statements.
Right.
And there are a couple of them that come near this. One of them is, my existence and aliveness is supported by my parents, friends, and everyone I contact. Another one is, the sole purpose of the universe and everyone in it is to nurture, love, and support me. Mm-hmm. So you could use either one of those as a regulatory speech substitute for today's Course in Miracles lesson. I am not the victim of the world I see.
Right. I've been thinking a lot about this as I accompany my son in his leave of absence that he has taken. And there was a very interesting turn of events this morning. He's been saying, last night I saw him, he said, I had a terrible day, just terrible day. I feel so guilty. You know, don't talk to me about where that came from, but I feel so guilty leaving my job. I really should just go back and I said, what are your choices? And he said, go back and die young, or leave and feel terrible and guilty and ashamed and dealing with people who will think poorly of me. I mean, there are so many worksheets. He finally agreed to do a worksheet with me today, and we're planning one for this afternoon. And I'm glad he's doing it, and I'm hopeful because he'll have a look at his life through that tool. But this morning when I went to get the dog, he was, of course, there, and I said, why don't you roust yourself out and come for a walk? I always take their dog for a walk in the early morning, just when it's getting light. And he said no for various reasons, but then he said, you know what? He had his second COVID shot, and the nurse gave him the shot right in the joint of his shoulder and arm. And he had a reaction. He got a fever and he got a headache and those things. But he also said, my arm is so sore and so weak, I can't even lift it beyond a few inches. That alone would give me my medical leave of absence. I wish I had not gotten a leave of absence for burnout and anxiety, and I just watched my arm and used that because literally I cannot operate right now on anyone. And he said, the fact that I have this excuse, which is, quote, legitimate, end quote, helps me feel better. And I'm thinking, thought disorder, thought disorder, thought disorder. And I'm thinking of Tim Hayes, who says, keep your mouth shut and don't say anything, just listen. And I did a bad job of it, Dr. Tim. I said, those are your thoughts. And he doesn't fight me the way my daughter does. And my daughter, and we're good. She's great. She called up the next day and said, I hope I wasn't too hard on you, Mom. And I said, well, I deserved it. So I accept what you did. And I will once again correct my Geiger counter or whatever it is that I use to tell myself what I should say and what I shouldn't. She said, the thing is, I do the same thing with my kids. And I do it with you. I give you advice. So you're giving me advice and I get mad, but I do it all the time. So she said, I'm trying to clean up my act too. I mean, it was a delicious, lovely conversation of mutual ownership of our crap. But with Jonathan, you know, here I'm heading into doing a worksheet with him. And I guess what I'm asking in this late moment in this show is for your blessing. May I be shown what to say and how to guide him, and maybe not do much guiding at all, let the worksheet do it. And I'm going to take the paper you did, those, what's it called, tidbits, or how to stop during the let me be shown, and spend the time there on that delicious pivotal point in the worksheet where it goes from erroneous thinking to inviting healthy thinking, God thinking, love thinking, seeing things the way they should be thinking. Oh, man. So, yeah. Well, that was kind of all over the place. You will do
beautifully, and he will be as blessed as he is willing to be.
Mm-hmm.
His willingness will be the governor on the engine and nothing else.
Yeah.
The tools there, it's available. Your affection for him and desire to help is full force. So the limiting factor will be his willingness.
Okay, taking a deep breath on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I know the show is about
you're doing your part.
Yeah. God is good. God gave him that little bit of relief of getting a physical reason for not being able to be operating. I was thinking that too is from God. God realized he was struggling too much and gave him a little window of reprieve. He's got to look at the stuff anyway, but that's my last comment. Just it was a lovely little thing.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks,
well,
Dr.
blessings.
Kim.
Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Good luck with the worksheet with your son. I appreciate your calls as always. And I will mute you and get ready for the transition as we remind everyone that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. And I had the thought, reading the Course in Miracles titles, that they'd be perfect mind shifters. Like, I wasn't on at the very beginning. Did you do lesson 29, 30, and 31?
Yes.
So, like, especially lesson 31, I'm not the victim of the world I see. That would be a perfect mind shifter.
Yeah, every one of them.
Yep, for sure. Well, thank you. I hope you have an awesome weekend.
Thanks, you too. Blessings.
Thanks. Bye. So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Friday, January the 29th,